Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Nope, it's not working.
Okay, well, I'm going to take advantage of that convenient lull in the sound there. Good morning and welcome to the April 28th, 2026 Board of Police Commissioners meeting. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory, as well as settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. First off, can I have a motion to approve the public agenda? Councillor Siklees, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held on March 31st, 2026? Thank you, Doug. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. Our first item on the agenda is PO 26-12, the Regina Police Service Forensic Identification Unit. Chief Davies, can you please introduce the report?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many faces here today on when the sun is shining. Spring is here. It's fantastic. So our first report is an effort to introduce the board and the public to more areas of our service that are doing amazing, incredible work day in and day out, and to give the public and the board a glimpse of some of the work that goes on. So today we are presenting the Forensic Identification Unit, and presenting that report this morning we have Sergeant Mark Goulet and Sergeant Scott Wolf, who between them have 24 years in our forensic identification section. So we could not ask for any presenters who have more experience and more knowledge about this unit than the two of them. So I'm going to turn it over to them to walk you through some of the aspects of our forensic identification unit.
Thank you, Chief. As she said, my name is Sergeant Scott Wolf. I'm one of two sergeants that are in charge of the Forensic Identification Unit. The Forensic Identification Unit structure consists of 9 sworn detective constables that attend crime scenes, process evidence, and testify in court. It also consists of 1 civilian forensic technician who processes exhibits brought into the building by patrol and other units. We are uniquely fortunate to have a forensic tech who used to work at the RCMP lab as a biology specialist and is a resource for members on DNA issues. We have 1 civilian APHIS technician who processes the fingerprints of people charged with a criminal offense. APHIS stands for Automated Fingerprint Identification System and includes a shared fingerprint database with Calgary and Edmonton that investigators use to search fingerprints lifted from crime scenes. We also have 2 civilian digital forensic technicians who are trained to download digital devices such as cell phones for investigators, usually done with a search warrant. In 2025, the Forensic Identification Unit moved to our new office space on the 3rd floor. It has 5 new labs designed to reduce the risk of cross-contamination. There's 1 chemical lab for processing exhibits, 3 bio labs for processing biohazard exhibits, and one photography lab. The office space is an open concept design designed to improve overall workflow and functionality. The APHIS tech works out of an office attached to the Forensic Identification Unit, while Tech Crimes has their own workspace that is also attached to FIU. There is also an APHIS terminal for investigators to search fingerprints lifted from crime scenes. This new area has not only improved workflow, but it has also had a positive impact on employee morale. And as you can see in the photos in the PowerPoint, in the top left corner is the old lab, which was quite cluttered with equipment. And right beside it is the chemical lab in the new in the new third floor office, which is much more open, much more functional for working, and as I said, reduces the risk of cross-contamination because, as you can see in the bottom two photos, are the biolab suites. So we can separate exhibits according to what we're going to be processing them for. So much less risk of cross-contamination as opposed to having everything in just one lab. So it's very well designed. Oh, yes, forgot about that. There we go. Crime scene investigation includes everything from homicides to stolen cars. We search for evidence such as fingerprints, DNA from bodily substances, and any other kind of evidence left behind that could link a suspect to a crime scene. Homicide investigations usually take up most of our time due to the large volume of evidence, the time it takes to receive DNA results from the RCMP lab, and prep for courtroom testimony. Every investigation is done methodically and in a way that allows us to present the evidence in court. The tools and training we are provided are essential to giving members the best chance at a successful investigation. This includes working with chemicals like blood reagents to searching for evidence left behind at a crime scene. And as you can see in the photos that are on the PowerPoint on the left-hand side, was from a homicide years ago where there was evidence of a cleanup. The first photo shows a bathtub that was cleaned up at a homicide scene, and the photos right beside it are photos after a blood reagent is applied to illuminate the cleanup that was left behind. So it will catch those little areas of blood that were left behind that they thought they had cleaned up, but our blood reagents will find it and discover it under a UV light source. The one beside it, the physical match, just basically shows a piece of evidence that was left behind at a hit and run causing death, where one of our forensic investigators had located a piece of a vehicle that had fled the scene. That piece was later located, or was later compared to the suspect vehicle that was found, and it was found to match to the area that was broken off. So very powerful evidence, again, when you're investigating files like hit and runs. We are also getting DNA hits on a weekly basis that include crime scene hits to known offenders on the DNA data bank and DNA hits that link crime scenes together. And Mark will have some stats later in the presentation.
Good morning. I'm Sergeant Mark Goulet with the Forensic Identification Unit. Scott and I share the role as the managers and overseers of that unit. I'm going to touch on the training right now. So to get into the Forensic Identification Unit, the member has to be a regular patrol member first, so it has to be part of the Regina Police Service. They then apply to come into the Forensic Identification Unit, and they spend their first 3 months doing an in-service training with, typically we use 2 different investigators that they follow, and they also have a 1 month of just in-the-office stuff that they have to take care of first. And that all ends with a mock murder scene that they have to show their abilities and what they've learned to ensure that they are able to continue on in the unit. After that, they are sent to the Canadian Police College in Ottawa, and that is an 8-week course that they go to for that. And then upon returning, there is continued online or continued training, which is offered in various areas such as blood spatter, post-blast, advanced friction ridge identification, firearm scene reconstruction, footwear analysis, and body scene recovery. So they can then specialize in a certain area that they find piques their interest. All of our members are also members of professional memberships with the International Association for Identification and the Canadian Identification Society. Our tech crime people go through a similar sort of setup where they go for 3 weeks at the Canadian Police College, and then they are then with a senior member for another couple weeks after that to ensure that their reports and their duties are being taken care of properly. There's also a 1-week mobile acquisition course at the Canadian Police College after that, and their in-service mentorship afterwards. The Forensic Identification Unit challenges We do not work at Miami CSI. We work in areas that are very difficult to work in. Our conditions are a little more extreme. Here in Canada, we have -40, we have +40, and we're working in areas that can be often very difficult and very crowded. So one of the big things for us is to ensure that the mental health is a primary concern for our people in our unit. The things they see and have to do, we ensure that they go through an annual mandatory screening once a year through our safeguard program at RPS, just to ensure that everyone is still doing all right, even though what they've gone through. So our statistics for last year, our DNA hits to a known offender. So these, after a conviction at court, the judge can apply for the DNA from that person to be put on the National DNA Databank. So last year we had 84 instances where we had hits to a known offender on that databank. Scene-to-scene hit is if we send in a sample from a crime scene and then 6 months down the road we send in a sample from another crime scene. We had 46 of those. A lot of that is break-and-enters in our city. We have people that are habitual offenders, continue offenders on the break-and-enters, so we tend to get few of them. An example, a couple weeks ago, we had one that had 8 different scene-to-scene hits that person was involved with. So, fingerprints, hits to known offenders. So we also have a fingerprint database that we use. And last year we had 27 fingerprint hits off of that. There were 10 homicide investigations, 2 officer-involved shooting investigations, and there were approximately 4,800 reports written last year. In conclusion, community safety and supporting police investigations using the most advanced forensic techniques remains the core mission of the Forensic Identification Unit. We try to ensure that we are doing everything we can to support patrol, and we try to make sure that our technology is up to date across Canada. So in the left-hand photo there is just a crime scene that we were out at, some of the tools that we're using. The middle photo is just using a metal detector. We're essentially looking for shell casings and things like that. Sometimes looking for the knife because, again, we're in Saskatchewan, that deep snow, you tend to lose stuff in the snow. And the photo on the right is our 3-dimensional scanner. So when we do a murder crime scene or a serious crime scene, we will use a 3D scanner to capture the entire crime scene, the entire house, the entire layout, and we're able to take that to court with us. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that. Does any board member have any questions? Michelle, go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation. It looks like great information. Looks like we have some really good technology, and I appreciate how we're making sure that our officers are taking care of their mental health. Where do we stand in Canada with our technology? Are we top of the line, 75% above?
I would say we're on par with other sections across Canada. We try and keep in touch with other police agencies. We try and keep a good working relationship with them, and we're always talking about different technologies they have or use, and I would say we're pretty much on par with what other agencies use in terms of techniques for finding fingerprints, DNA, things like that. So I would say we're doing pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you again for presenting today. You can, I guess, return to the gallery or wherever you guys are going next. Probably can't tell us. With that, could I have a motion to receive and file the report? Menmeet, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried, thank you. Okay, next up, we'll go to PO 26-13, Regina Police Service, Fleet Services. Chief Davies, can you introduce the report, please?
Certainly. So throughout the year, we have committed to providing more information to the board and the public in advance of budget deliberations this fall. And so one of the questions we had last year was around our fleet. And so this morning, we are providing a report about our fleet services, and presenting that report is Ms. Elizabeth Wright. Elizabeth is our asset manager, so her area of purview is facilities, custodial, as well as fleet services. So Liz will walk us through that report, and certainly we'll be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Any? Oh, wait. No, that's okay. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Wright, Asset Manager for Regina Police Service. It's my pleasure today to present on our fleet services. The goal today is to provide a clear overview of fleet services. I'll walk through what we do, how we manage and maintain police vehicles, and how we make replacement decisions in a way that balances cost, safety, and reliability. At the end of the day, it is about responsible stewardship of public resources. Fleet services plays a direct role in public safety. Police vehicles are essential to frontline response, and reliable vehicles support faster response times. When vehicles are unavailable, it can impact service delivery and officer safety. Our role is to ensure officers have safe, dependable vehicles when they need them. Police vehicles operate very differently from a typical municipal fleet. They run 24 hours a day, year-round. They experience high idle times, frequent stop-and-go driving, and carry significant onboard equipment. All of these factors increase wear and shorten overall lifespan of the vehicle. We've had some questions about why vehicles are often visible at the compound at all times. Policing operates 24/7 with staggered shifts, so vehicles are constantly coming and going. Not all marked vehicles are patrol. Some are assigned to specific programs such as school resource officers and may not be in use overnight or on weekends. Vehicles also return to headquarters throughout a shift for operational tasks, and some are taken out of service for maintenance and cleaning. Vehicle presence doesn't always indicate inactivity. It reflects ongoing operations and support functions. Fleet Services is responsible for much more than just purchasing vehicles. We manage maintenance and repairs, ensure safety-critical systems are functioning, and plan for long-term replacement needs. Our focus is keeping the fleet reliable, safe, and operational. Our current staffing includes 1 supervisor, 1 lead technician, 3 technicians, and 8 garage attendants. This team supports all fleet operations, from maintenance and repairs to readiness and life cycle planning. Today, Regina Police Service manages 262 fleet assets. Most are passenger vehicles, but the fleet also includes motorcycles, trailers, an aircraft, and an armored vehicle. Each asset type has different operational demands and life cycle considerations. This slide shows the mix of vehicles by type and manufacturer in our fleet. The key point here is that our fleet is built around operational needs, not standardization alone. That adds complexity, but also allows us to match the right vehicle to the right function. We use a fleet management system to support decision-making. It tracks things like mileage, maintenance costs, repairs, downtime, and overall usage. This allows us to base decisions on data trends rather than relying on assumptions. One important takeaway is that mileage alone doesn't tell the full story. Our vehicles spend a significant amount of time idling, which contributes to wear. Two vehicles with very similar kilometers could be in very different conditions depending on how they're used. That's why we look at multiple factors when assessing vehicle health. To give some context on costs, it currently averages around $6,500 per year to maintain a patrol vehicle. As vehicles age, these costs tend to increase. Replacing vehicles at the right time help us avoid higher repair costs and maintain reliability. Patrol vehicles typically reach end of life around 170,000 kilometers, or roughly 4 years of service. When making replacement decisions, we consider maintenance costs, repair frequency, downtime, and operational impact. The goal is to strike the right balance between getting full value from the vehicle and avoiding increased risks and costs. In this slide in particular, the graph shows the mileage of a vehicle and then the repair cost at different mileage points. And as you can see in this vehicle, or this graph, when the vehicle reaches around that 170,000 kilometer mark, the cost of those repairs increase significantly. When vehicles reach the end of their frontline use, we look at several options. Some are sold at auction, some are repurposed for lower demand roles, such as the Alternative Response Program. And in some cases, leased vehicles are purchased and reassigned internally. Occasionally, vehicles are written off as total losses through insurance. In 2025, we recovered approximately $182,700 through auctions and insurance claims. Those funds are reinvested back into the fleet, which helps reduce the overall cost to taxpayers. We continue to assess electric and hybrid vehicle options. At this time, fully electric vehicles can't reliably support extended policing duty cycles without recharging. Hybrid vehicles offer some benefit, but higher acquisition and leasing costs remain a challenge. And any transition has to be operationally viable and financially sustainable. To summarize, police vehicles are critical to public safety and operate under demanding conditions. Fleet Services works to balance cost, safety, reliability, and when making replacement decisions. Overall, our focus is on responsible management of public funds while ensuring operational readiness. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this overview. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for the presentation. I'm going to start. I don't know if you want to talk to it, Liz, or whoever does, but just to expand on seeing fleet vehicles in the parking lot, just maybe touching on that shift work and how that works. Chief, do you want to talk to that?
Sure, I can
Thank you.
start, and then Liz can add in something if I miss. So on any given time, on any given day, there may be vehicles sitting in our parking lot. So on day shift, our officers primarily go out on a one-person car. And so if you had 30 police officers working, they would each have their own vehicles. On night shift, officers are typically paired up, so it's a two-person car. That's actually part of our collective agreement through bargaining, and so obviously on a night shift, you need less vehicles out on the road. But then we also need vehicles for instances where there's a rider game, and so we have a bunch of people coming in on special duty that need to work traffic points, so we need to ensure that we have enough vehicles in that fleet that we're able to have enough for those peak demand times. And as Liz mentioned, on any given time, we could have 4 vehicles waiting to book prisoners into our detention center. And so they might be waiting in the parking lot to go in there. The officers could be exhibiting property exhibits in at the police station before they're heading back out on the road. So I think to say at any given one point in time, we saw 20 vehicles, that must mean that you're overstaffed, I think is premature to say that without all of the information. That really we are a 24/7 organization. Those vehicles are in and out of that parking lot, every several minutes, and that we ensure that our fleet is based upon what we need, peak demand, and we don't have a bunch of extras floating around just in case we might need them. But certainly those decisions are made balancing operational need as well as fiscal responsibility.
It encompasses everything.
Very Perfect. No, thank you for that. And then the other one I had was just around the end of life, and you just again, just to highlight. So you'd mentioned 4 years, 170,000 kilometers. Again, just the duty cycle, not not every vehicle and every organization, if you're cruising for construction or otherwise, it maybe goes through the same types of situations that our vehicles do. Do you want to maybe just kind of expand on that a little bit and talk about the duty cycle and then you spoke a little bit about using some of the hours and idle time, not just kilometers.
Right. So, for instance, when factoring in idle time, generally gives us what would be double engine hours of usage. So that has a major impact on the life cycle of a patrol vehicle. The 170,000 kilometers and 4 years is generally what we will get out of patrol. We have other units that we could get a much longer life cycle out of, just depending on what the vehicle is used for. As opposed to, for instance, a traffic or CTSS unit, which may have significantly higher kilometers that are driven, thinking CTSS, driven out of the city. So it's less of that demand of the stop and go city impact.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll look to my colleagues if they have any questions. Robert, go ahead.
Just looking at that same data subset, so we're looking at approximately 40-some thousand kilometers annually if we divide that by 4 years, which is quite a bit. If you, like a standard lease is typically about 20,000 some kilometers. We're almost
Roughly.
doubling that, right?
Yes.
So it's like some good road time on
Yes.
those vehicles, no doubt. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification, the maintenance cost that you presented, roughly what, $6,500 per vehicle per year, that includes our staff time or just the maintenance as in the pads that go in and everything else?
That does include a part of the staff time, as closely as we can record it.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you for presenting today. And can I have a motion to receive and file the report? Councillor Sickley, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. Okay, on to PO 26-14, 2025 District Year-End Reports. Chief Davies, I'll get you to introduce the report.
Certainly. So every year we provide reports to the board and the public on our district reports from the previous year. So we divide our city geographically into 3 districts, north, central, and south. Each district is overseen by an inspector and they maintain patrol units as well as some specialty units that fall within those districts. So for instance, traffic, school resource officers, our TRIP program. So we have all 3 of those reports here for you today. And we have 3 inspectors who will be presenting them. I think for the board, after each district, if you have questions in relation to that, then that's probably the easiest way to do it, and we'll just move through all 3. So starting off, we have Inspector Sean Fenwick, and he will be presenting for the North District.
Good morning. Yeah, and then just make sure you push the button on your mic there.
I can take this opportunity to let you know that Inspector Chris Jacque will be presenting South District, and Inspector Brad Walter will be presenting Central District as well.
Right on. Good morning, Mayor and members of the board. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present some information about the North District of Regina. I'm Sean Fenwick, the inspector in charge of the North District. And the North District includes the area within the city limits, north of the Canadian Pacific Main Railway line, with the exception of the North Central community. The district is divided into 3 zones: the Northwest, the Northeast, and the West Zone. The Community Service Division is currently overseen by 1 inspector and 1 staff sergeant. I'm missing a few clicks here. Thanks, Linz. So we also have the patrol shifts, 4 patrol shifts, the traffic safety unit and the combined traffic safety services unit, Crime Stoppers and community programs, as well as the community on coordinator. The Regina Police Service tactical analysts report on crime trends and collect data. The information is reported daily and is used to identify hotspots of crime within the city. This information is critical. It provides the district staff sergeants with valuable opportunities to effectively direct resources and develop timely strategies. The district staff sergeant also considers current concerns from city councilors, community associations, and citizens, as well as frontline community members. The staff sergeants provide frontline officers with proactive policing hotspots, so each week we can adjust where we're going to concentrate our resources and respond effectively to crime trends. So last year, crimes against property in the North District accounted for 28.4% of all reported property crimes in the city of Regina. That's slightly higher than 2024. In 2025, we saw decreases in overall property crime violations. The most significant changes was a 33% decrease in break and enters, 30% decrease in theft of autos, mischief violations decreased by 23%, theft from auto violations decreased by 13%. So overall, we saw a 20% decrease in number of violations. Moving on to crimes against the person. In 2024, in 2025, it accounted for 26.4% of all reported crimes against the person in the city, compared to 24.3% in 2024. The North District saw a slight decrease in assaults, 2.5%, decrease in robberies, 3.5%. So overall, that's a 2.7% decrease in crimes against the person. Overall occurrences. In the last 3 years, we had just under 11,000 occurrences, but last year we had just under 10,000. The percentage change is minimal, but about 932 fewer occurrences reported in 2025 versus 2024. I want to move on to our traffic safety unit. So it falls within the Community Services Division and has an administrative member operating the team of a total of 13 members. The administrative team consists of 1 sergeant working Monday to Friday, overseeing the operations of the unit. The operational TSU consists of 2 teams, 1 sergeant, 5 constables on each team. They work a 12-hour shift rotation, kind of following the patrol 12-hour shift rotation. The officers assigned to traffic safety divide their time between emergency call response, where they serve roles as first responders, provide backup and assistance to our patrol members during times of peak call, and they assist with calls. They are also primary responders to fatal collisions. They conduct enforcement on criminal and provincial statutes. They serve as educators, doing regular instructing at the Police College, Citizens Police Academy, SGI's Driving Without Impairment course. They also instruct at just various schools throughout the community, often collaborating with SROs. Currently, the Regina Police Service has members with specialized collision training, reconstruction training. They're called out to fatal collisions, and they maintain all of our collision investigative equipment. The team was formalized at the conclusion of 2023. We use the acronym ICART, so that means it's our Investigative Collision Analysis Reconstruction Team. ICART members are required to obtain extensive training similar to that of the Forensic Identification Unit in terms of the mandatory requirements they must maintain. We also have drug recognition experts, requires a lot of training. Drug recognition experts assist with our impaired driving investigations. 2025, we introduced a subunit for traffic safety as a pilot project. We identified 4 members with special training in ICART and drug recognition expertise. These members provide ongoing support and expertise in the subject areas of accident investigation as well as impaired driving investigations. Also, they find time to do proactive enforcement relating to suspended and disqualified high-risk driver offenders in our community. Pilot project was a huge success, offering strong response to serious motor vehicle accidents, increased quality control relating to impaired driving investigations involving drugs and alcohol. The subunit team is referred to using the acronym STRIDE, Specialized Training, Reconstruction, and Impaired Driving Enforcement. Day-to-day administrative functions fall on the TSU sergeant. These functions include just a variety of things, including the supervision of both teams, budgets, traffic plans, traffic projects, taxi, tow, rideshare licensing, parade permits, amplification permits. They work with city engineers, justice, SGI, and various partners within our community. TSU sergeant also serves on many boards and committees, both internally and externally with community partners. Of note, I do want to highlight the rideshare applications. They've increased exponentially in the last number of years, definitely testing the capacities of our unit. In 2025, we processed 3,321 taxi tow rideshare applications. Taxi tow applications remain relatively the same year to year. However, rideshare applications dramatically increased. 2024, we had just over 1,600. In 2025, over 2,500. So that's a 55% increase. It's an important service. However, it's going to be difficult to maintain and sustain this service given the steady upward trend in rideshare applications. We've created efficiencies. However, we're currently examining further solutions, currently working with city licensing officials to move some of the administrative duties maybe back towards the city, so our traffic safety unit can concentrate more on the security clearance aspect of those applications relating to the rideshare stuff. In 2025, TSU issued 12,366 summary offense tickets compared to 12,082 in 24, so that's a 2.5% increase. We again partner with the City of Regina in several traffic projects, including the continuation of the Overdrive program, intersection enforcement program, using the funds from the automatic speed enforcement program to help fund these initiatives. All these initiatives focused on enforcement efforts towards high volume traffic areas, high collision intersections, traffic complaint areas, and are also around social drinking establishments. Provincially, working with SGI, TSU contributed to the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, otherwise known as STEP, sending members to various locations throughout the province through the summer months. Also brought that project to Regina in September, where there were 40 police officers from around the province doing enforcement for 2 days. 2024, TSU implemented mandatory alcohol screening, otherwise known as MAS. We did this just for a few months in 2024. Trial went so well in 2025, we implemented it on a full-time basis with TSU, where they conduct MAS on virtually every traffic stop. So with the implementation, crazy numbers here, an increase of 1,829% over 2023 roadside tests, led to an increase of 412% in driver's license suspensions issued in 25 versus 23. Highlights of the importance of mandatory alcohol screening and its effectiveness in getting impaired drivers off the road. Keep in mind, though, a portion of these suspensions are for administrative level prohibited breath samples, not necessarily criminal levels of blood alcohol. Impaired driving, we continue to prioritize this, obviously with the mandatory alcohol screening, but we did respond to 974 impaired driving calls, resulted in 389 drivers being charged with impaired, 243 with exceed, and 66 charged with refusal. The automatic speed enforcement continued, 3 locations in Regina, 2 in school zones and 1 in the Ring Road, so 20,136 tickets issued, compared to 24 where there were 25,000 issued. I'll move on to the Combined Traffic Safety Service, otherwise known as CTSS. So RPS, CTSS operates with a strategic team of 8 constables and 2 sergeants, leveraging a sergeant-led model to ensure comprehensive oversight, both with personnel and section-wide objectives. The unit utilizes technologically advanced fleet and 5 patrol cars featuring ALPR, radar, breath testing technology, complemented by 2 motorcycles for seasonal deployment. The motorcycle detail proved highly effective during the 2025 season, issuing 356 distracted driving citations. Overall, the unit's high volume resulted in over 20,000 enforcement actions, with nearly half of those citations issued directly within the city of Regina. To build on this success, a mid-year plan was put together where we dedicated canine drug detection dog handlers, and by integrating canine into CTSS for 2026, we should enhance some of the ability to conduct proactive highway enforcement, intercepting contraband along the corridors coming into and out of Regina. The canine handler's priority will still remain traffic enforcement, traffic safety, but they will have another tool at their disposal. Moving on to Community On. The Regina Police Service remains committed to identifying new partnerships and innovative offerings to enhance these established programs. By transitioning from passive signage to active digital collaboration, Community On reinforces fundamental principle of crime prevention. Safety is shared responsibility. When the public adheres to see something, say something, the standard, the service's ability to prevent and solve crime is significantly enhanced. The initiatives and partner programs under Community On include the Safe Neighborhood Camera Registry, the Crime Dashboard, Citizens Police Academy, Community Crime Map, Citizens on Patrol, the Wanted page, Can You Identify page, crime statistics, Women's Personal Safety Team, Regina Crime Stoppers, Regina Intersectoral Partnership, and Safer Communities and Neighborhoods. I want to thank Lindsay for all her help on this initiative. Not only is she a good clicker, she's awesome in support of this initiative. Crime Stoppers also falls under the North District, and in 2025 we had 917 tips, 44 arrests, 81 cases cleared. We saw these numbers increase slightly from the previous year, also an increase in the amount of property recovered and drugs seized. Crime Stoppers Coordinator also administers community programs such as the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association and the Citizens on Patrol program. There's a lot there, but that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of the information I shared.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the presentation, Inspector Fenwick, and thanks for the clicking, Lindsay. Just a couple from you to start off with. With the rideshare, I guess you briefly mentioned that working with the city, trying to see if maybe there's some ways to get some of the administrative work parsed over, so RPS can focus on more of what is in their wheelhouse, or maybe it's more appropriate. If we get to that spot, do you feel like we have the capacity, or is there maybe some more work there based on what you're seeing in terms of the increases?
I think to administer it properly, to move some of those duties, the administrative duties, back to the city would be help us achieve what we need to achieve. There are a couple of new rideshare companies within the city, and often those drivers get licensing for each rideshare company, so it almost triples the work. So in the last 3-4 years, we've seen that steady increase in the applications we're having to process.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. We'll talk more as needed and make sure we support you in that. The numbers for impaired driving, 384, I think I saw was the number, so more than one a day.
Correct.
That's a big number.
It is a big number for sure.
So obviously a reason why we're still focused very heavily on that.
Lots of work to do there.
Right on. Thank you for that. Any other questions from members? Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit on the mandatory alcohol screening. I know I've gone through those before, and I haven't had any drinks. Do I need to, can I legally be asked to do this? So I'm thinking it might be a public's question as well. If you could explain that. And I noticed that you had 66 refusals up there. Mm-hmm. So that's my first question. Second one is just around the distracted driving charges. And I'm wondering what initiatives we're doing for the cell phone usage while people are driving, because when you're at a stop sign or a red light, you always see people's eyes kind of going down and trying to not make it obvious. But my two questions there.
Yeah, good question. I'll start with the mandatory alcohol screening. It was about 2017. There was some federal legislation change that gave police officers the authority for that brief interaction with the public at a roadside to demand them to provide a short sample. It takes, for our traffic safety officers who are good at it, it takes about 60 seconds. And it's legislated, and it wasn't until about 2023 where we have been using it effectively. So it has been tested in the courts, and it is lawful. It doesn't breach any charter rights. And I think you'll see the RCMP across the province, and also I noticed in January of this year, the Saskatoon Police Service doing the same thing. So yeah, the detainment's brief, and it's a tool to help get drivers off the road. Since we've been doing it, you know, our officers are trained in identifying impaired drivers and signs of alcohol and drugs. But, you know, there's been examples of individuals, adults dropping their children off at school and have tested over the legal limit to be operating a motor vehicle that wouldn't have otherwise been detected without that tool. Situations where people are on their way home from work and it's 5 o'clock and they left their work a little bit early and stopped in to have something in the way home, and otherwise, again, wouldn't be detected without that tool. So it's been effective, and it's a very brief detainment. Does that answer your question there?
It does. I guess if you're stopping someone and they're saying, well, why, you know, are you legally allowed to do this? I haven't had any drinks. Do you find that you don't have to explain it as often to citizens you stop?
You're right. I think the public's getting more educated. When we first started doing this in 2023, we did some media work with SGI and Lindsay to help educate the public. I know local talk shows talk about this tool that the police are now utilizing. So I think the public is getting more informed, but from time to time there are questions. But I think we actually get the opposite sometimes. Sometimes people will say, thanks for doing this, appreciate you keeping the road safe. So the public is adjusting for sure.
Good. It's a great tool. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
you betcha. Part two of the question, help me out with that again.
Yeah, part two was under cell phone usage,
Yeah.
under distracted driving, and what kind of initiatives we're doing to stop that or decrease that.
You know, I think targeted enforcement is one of the big things because the opportunities are there to do enforcement. So it's just a matter of us prioritizing that. I think you'll see with the motorcycles we have now, one of the biggest advantages for the motorcycles is their ability to enforce distracted driving. So that was, you know, one of the initiatives we took on with sponsorship from support from the SGI in purchasing the motorcycles. So that's one of the initiatives, and to continue to have projects where we are out there that is the priority to on this given day and this time, we're going to do nothing but look for distracted driving opportunities to provide enforcement.
Am I making this up in thinking that we had a bus initiative? Okay, are we thinking of doing something like that again? Because they have a really great vantage point, right?
Yeah, they do. You know, I think it's something that we could look at again. I think I would say that it's not about identifying them and finding them. The evidence is out there. When we want to target that, when we have the opportunity to do that, we don't necessarily need the bus to find them. They're there without that. I guess partnerships with the city transit, but it's something we could definitely look at if we're having trouble identifying the targets.
I would just add in, Michelle, our traffic fleet and our CTSS fleet have a combination of marked and unmarked vehicles in addition to our motorcycles. And so those unmarked vehicles are, ticketing distracted driving regularly. And the motorcycles, it's really about that maneuverability and their ability to be in traffic and be undetected. And people just aren't used to seeing them. And unfortunately, we do see too much distracted driving happening in the city. And so, I don't think anything is off the table in terms of what we might do in terms of a project, but even just the state of our fleet and the mix of marked and unmarked vehicles really creates opportunities for us to hold those folks accountable.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Manmeet, go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to expand into those questions, if I may. What's your view about the new technology in the cars? We are seeing more screens, every company going lavish with that. Is that leading to more distracted driving out there? Do we need to look at how we determine what's distracted driving and what's not, with everything moving to the screens? And what's your view with regards to that?
It's a good question, and I think it's something to keep our eyes on. I do think the bigger threat is the handheld devices for today's drivers, but the way technology is progressing, I think you bring up a good point, and we'll have to keep monitoring that for sure.
One of the things, obviously, is we have to work within the laws as they are written now in terms of what is classified as, you know, a handheld device and distracted driving, and so we need to operate within that realm. But certainly if there's something that our officers are seeing as a trend, maybe attributing to accidents, that type of thing, then we have good relationship with SGI and provincial government to say, hey, this is something we're seeing in terms of collisions, for instance, and then could lobby for changes to that legislation if that was what we thought needed to happen.
Okay. The other one with regards to the mandatory alcohol screening, are we looking to expand that to other substances? And what's happening at that on that front, if at all?
Federal legislation right now doesn't allow us to use different devices to detect for drugs. It's actually a longer detainment for that process. So without suspicion, we can't do that within the current charter and the current case law. But with the prevalence of drug-impaired driving and as technology improves, maybe one day we will see that.
Okay. Thank you.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the rideshare taxi tow truck side. Are we looking, or have we looked to see what other cities are doing and how that's managed?
We have. One thing that is unique to our city, part of our bylaw, we have one extra kind of step when we are licensing our drivers. So we dig in a little deeper in the backgrounds of the individual applying for the license. So it does make it a little more onerous in terms of granting those approvals, but I think it's something that we're proud of, and I'm not sure stepping back to take away that one extra step would be what we'd recommend. So to compare apples to apples, that is one of the differences, but we do feel strongly about the extra kind of security check that we do.
Thank you.
Robert, go ahead.
You picked good going first. You're in the brunt of the questions here. I've got a few for you here. I'll start off with property crime. We're seeing a good steady decline, at least in property crime, since the height of COVID. So that's reassuring to see that there's some economic bounce back there. We continue to see kind of our highest stats in the mischief category, understanding that that's kind of an all-encompassing. Could you give us a bit of a sense of kind of what you're seeing on the mischief front? What are kind of the top offenses in that category there?
I think without diving into it, I'll tell you what my opinion is based on what I'm seeing from day to day, and I think it's things like graffiti, bus shelters, unaccounted for damage on vehicles. So I don't know if I can put my finger on a specific trend that I can attribute it to. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one?
Sure. I think what you'll see in the North District is what you would see similarly in Central and South over the past year. We have seen property decreases over the past number of years, which is obviously a good thing. Mischiefs are really a really wide range of offenses. So it could be something somebody had their car keyed, mirror smashed, a window broken, graffiti, as Sean said, the bus shelters. It's really a very wide encompassing range of offenses. And And typically, those are reports that we're receiving via online or our direct entry victim reporting. They're people that have reported it essentially after the fact, and so many of them are difficult in order to lay charges, but we do often receive calls of a rash of something happening in a small area. Maybe it's somebody, breaking vehicle windows, and we are able to respond and hold those people accountable. But it really is a very wide-ranging offense category in terms of what that captures.
Perfect, thank you. You mentioned in your report that most of our officers are SFSD trained, so standard field sobriety test. And with that, we have 17 drug recognition experts, so DREs. Could you give us a bit of a sense of the relation between the two? Are all the SFSD officers, do all of them have the capacity to test both for alcohol and drug? Or is drug only situated with the DREs?
Yeah, so the drug recognition experts would be a tool we would use to lay an impaired driving charge to give us the reason to believe. The training company with that is quite significant and lengthy, and the SFST is more of a tool to give us suspicion to take the investigation to the next level. So it is a much briefer kind of training regiment, and the results of those tests don't give take us to the level to believe where we can lay the charge. It just allows us to take it to the next level of the investigation to reach the threshold of believe versus suspect.
Right, and I imagine the 17 DREs is sufficient enough to have enough on shift at all times.
Yeah, I think it is due to the demands of the training. I think it is sufficient. In a perfect world, everybody would have that training, but that wouldn't be possible. So right now, I think that we are satisfied with where we're at with the qualified individuals for the drug recognition training.
Perfect, thank you.
I would just add, Commissioner, that if we came across an instance where maybe there was a serious collision or something where we felt like we needed a DRE and we didn't have one working, we would call somebody in to ensure that we were able to gather that evidence and lay that charge. But as Inspector Fenwick indicated, it's very difficult training. It's long training, and there's a requirement to keep it up, to do a certain amount of tests, to keep yourself sort of qualified as an expert. And so not everyone has a desire to do that type of work, but we're certainly continually canvassing our members to see if there are those that have interest in being certified as a drug recognition expert.
No, that's perfect, because I know even the SFSDs are a relatively newer program as well, right? So it's nice to see that we have almost the entire force cross-trained in that level of work, so that's good to see. I see here in terms of tow trucks, the applications from 24 to 25 grew from 80 to 168, which is almost a doubling. Did something happen there that there's such a huge spike?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I did notice that increase as well. That increase for us is manageable on that amount. I can't say what that's attributed to, but we're not seeing a trend that would make us believe that's going to happen from year to year. But it's a good question.
Sure, okay. And just my last question here, in terms of the taxi and rideshare, I assume that they have comparable licensing. You mentioned, obviously we delve into kind of the records of the driver themselves, but does that licensing also delve into an inspection of the vehicle itself on both the taxi and rideshare front?
No, we don't inspect the vehicles. I believe that falls on the rideshare company, but we're not inspecting the vehicles, no.
Okay. So it's just a background check of the driver themselves?
Correct.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you again, Inspector Fenwick. Appreciate your presentation.
Okay, we'll have Inspector Jacque come and present the South District report. please refresh your drinks.
See if I can work my own clicker. All right, good morning. I'm Chris Jackie. I'm the inspector in charge of the South District and the Community Services Division. So I'll get right into the district overview. Let's see if the clicking works. There we go. All right, so the South District is one of Regina's most rapidly growing areas, encompassing 4 main zones of the 9: south, southeast, southwest, and east, which are all south of the railway tracks that run through our city. Areas like Harbor Landing and the Greens on Gardner continue to expand, and it brings both opportunity and challenges in how we police and support these communities. So to address this growth effectively, we've maintained a geographic ownership model, assigning officers to specific zones and smaller subdivisions called ADAMs. This ensures a more tailored and responsive approach to service calls, proactive engagement, and community problem solving. So the South District is is led by 1 inspector, 1 staff sergeant. Together, they oversee all the South District personnel across 4 patrol shifts, as you can see on the bottom, as well as manage specialized programs, including the school resource officers, police and crisis team, and the TRIP, or Regina Intersectoral Partnership. So we'll start with crime trends with our property and person offenses. So in 2025, the South District accounted for nearly 43% of all property crime in Regina. This represents a 4.1 decrease from last year. And looking at specific types of property crime tracked, we saw notable decreases in pretty much all reportable property crime offenses over the last 2 years. These trends reflect the impact of focused patrols, data-informed deployment, and community cooperation. I guess you could use the stats. All right. So break and enters dropped by 36% in 2025 and by 46% since 2023. Theft from auto reduced by 32% in 2025 and by 47% in 2023. Theft of auto saw a drop of over 33% in 2025. And again, mischief offenses that you just questioned decreased by 42% compared to their peak in 2023. As for crimes against the person, the South District accounted for 30.3% of citywide incidents, a 1.8% reduction from 2024. And these shifts help guide where we focus our education, enforcement, and prevention resources. So the southeast zone continues to experience the highest volume of these incidents year after year, followed by southeast and then southwest. So we saw a 21% decrease in assault offenses, which is very positive, and this includes all levels of assault and sexual assault, as well as robbery offenses declined by 6.3% from the previous year, which is a very positive development. So overall occurrences with 12.7% or 1,800 fewer occurrences reported in the South District in 2025, not to compare to my north and central people, but this accounts for the greatest reduction across the districts within our city. There is a small trophy that goes with that, but didn't bring it today. Moving on to some of our programs that operate within South. These is a wonderful picture of our school resource officers in 2025 to 2026. So the SRO program places police officers directly in schools to build positive relationships with students and staff. These officers provide education on safety and legal topics, help with investigation or incidents that happen at the schools, and support a safe and inclusive learning environment. Their goal is to be a trusted resource for youth while helping prevent crime through education and early intervention. Our school resource officers remain deeply involved in schools throughout all districts. SROs conducted 158 educational presentation topics, on topics like bullying, drugs, gangs, cyber safety, interpersonal violence, and more. They completed 201 lockdown and safety drills, keeping students and staff prepared for emergencies. Each school is mandated to complete 2 drills per year, and this is collaborated with both Catholic and public education boards. Officers generated over 1,003 investigative reports and engaged in nearly 200 conflict resolution meetings, often resolving situations without formal charges and using mediation, compassion, and education. Sorry, getting a little ahead of myself here. SROs also conducted 118 risk assessments and participated in over 100 school events. So 2 standout education partnerships that are involved within our SRO program is the law enforcement and criminology program at campus Regina Public, and that's on the right, which graduated 50 students in 2025 and continues to prepare youth for careers in law enforcement and other public safety avenues. The Scott Police Academy on the left fosters leadership and civic engagement. This year, the Academy enrolled 71 students, with 16 graduating in June of 2025, and representation and inclusivity remain a key priority. I'll point out that there's 42% of students identifying as female, 41% identifying as First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, and 52% identifying as visible minorities. Very proud stats. I'll just touch on a couple of our community-based collaborations. So several interagency initiatives continue to be pillars of our proactive response model in the South. So I mentioned TRIP, or the Regina Intersectoral Partnership. It's a team effort between schools, police, healthcare, and social services to support young people who are at risk of falling into trouble or facing challenges at home or school. It focuses on early intervention, bringing services together to create a plan and reduce risk before bigger problems develop with them. The program is built on consent and collaboration, aiming to improve the well-being of the youth and their families. It connects youth and families to supports across education, health, and justice. TRIP received 132 referrals this year, or in 2025, and the trend since inception continues, where the majority of the referrals received are from the school systems, which is very positive. Move on to our PAC team, Police and Crisis Team. It pairs a police officer with a mental health professional to respond to calls involving people in crisis, often due to mental illness or addiction. Instead of just enforcing the law, the team helps individuals get support they need, such as connecting them to health services or avoiding unnecessary arrests or hospital visits. It's about addressing root causes and improving outcomes for vulnerable individuals. So PACT was involved in 1,693 clients experiencing mental health and addiction crises last year. And through these interventions, as you can see, 229 mental health warrant calls for service, 396 community treatment order calls for service, 51 arrests were diverted due to PACT intervention, 195 individuals taken to hospital for psychiatric treatment or other medical services, 111 people were diverted from emergency departments and referred to other services in the community that could support them, and 328 individuals were connected to mental health services longer term. So with last year, the expansion to a 3rd full-time PAC team proved very instrumental in extending our coverage and improving outcome for those in crisis. And obviously a 4th team, which we don't currently have, would provide that wraparound coverage to each of our 4 patrol shifts. I'll next touch on the hub. The hub is very similar to our TRIP. It's a collaborative initiative that brings together professionals from various agencies such as police, health, education, and social services. This is to help individuals and families facing complex high-risk situations. When someone is identified as being at an elevated risk due to issues like mental health struggles, substance use, criminal involvement, or family conflict, they can be referred to the hub table. The hub team meets to quickly connect them with the right supports, depending on what their need is. The goal is early intervention and a coordinated action so that people get help before problems escalate into emergencies or criminal activity. The hub table brought together multiple agencies to manage 81 high-risk referrals, with the leading concerns being mental health, substance use, and antisocial behavior. Just going to touch quickly on some of our public safety partnerships. So beyond our frontline work, the South District continues to build strong relationships with key public institutions within our city. So at the Regina International Airport, responded to 83 calls for service. The most common types were non-criminal, primarily involving seized items during screening, unwanted persons, and general assistance requests. While it doesn't draw heavily on our resources, we remain active through safety and security committees and emergency planning operations to ensure, like our schools, that they're prepared for any emergencies that may present. We supported events and responded to a variety of incidents at the University of Regina Legislative Building and Wascana Park, again reinforcing our commitment to public safety across all settings. We're also heavily involved with monitoring the wildfire evacuees as they attended to our city in 2025. So just to close, in 2025, it was a year of growth, progress, and continued collaboration for the South District. Despite the challenges that come with rapid development, shifting demographics, and increasing demand on our resources, our teams have remained focused on proactive policing initiatives, community engagement, building strong partnerships across all of our sectors, which have proven successful. From crime prevention and school engagement to mental health support, cross-agency interventions, South District continues to evolve in how we serve the public. We're seeing the impact of data-driven strategies, early intervention models like TRIP and PACT, and our commitment to being visible, accessible, and responsible in all of our neighborhoods in the South End. We're proud of what we've accomplished this year. We're committed to building on this momentum, and we look ahead to 2026. So thanks for your ongoing support and for your shared commitment to public safety and well-being in our city, and I can take any questions.
Great, thank you for the presentation, Inspector Jacque, and glad to see you're not competitive with your district colleagues.
Gotta be.
Appreciate that. A couple questions for me with the SROs, and I'll use this as my soapbox yet again. For parking in front of schools and parents, double, triple parking, U-turns, all that sort of thing, are we seeing any progress at all? And if you were to say something to the parents in our community today about dropping off and picking up their kids at our schools, what would you say?
Well, it's definitely a challenge. There's been a couple brought to our attention by different schools and community associations that we've directed attention to. So we've attended out there with counselors on the board, as well as our traffic safety unit, school resource officers, and have done proactive responses to that, informing parents about the problems it causes, the risk it poses to the children, as well as any other pedestrians in the area. So as they are brought to our attention, we're going to continue to try through the education boards to keep those parents informed proactively as to what to avoid and why we're trying to do it. But for those problem areas, we will continue to respond as they're brought to our attention. So.
Well, yeah, and I'll just say for those kids who are able to walk and move around themselves, I would say Councillor Sickley's walked to school uphill both ways in a blizzard, so barefoot. So I would just say a block away sometimes will keep more kids safe just walking that extra distance. So the other question I had, if I can find it in my scribbles here. Just around schools and lockdown drills and that. When you give feedback, is it feedback to the Board of Education? Is it feedback to the ministry? And do you ever touch on like the actual structure of the school and limitations that our schools have in that?
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest challenges we worked around. I was actually in charge of schools several years ago, and that's when some of the newer schools like Douglas Park and Arcola schools were coming into it. And one of our biggest challenges is where to hide in a fishbowl. That's the biggest challenge. So we had to come up with some creative ways and look at it very creatively on how to enact our shelter in place and our lockdown drills to make sure they're done safely. So we had to adjust some of our typical plans, like our older schools in the city, on how to close doors, how to get out of sight, and things like that. So we do provide feedback to the staff at the school, to the Board of Education. We've created some very fulsome, well thought out tactical plans on how to respond at each school. And again, by doing 2 per year, it really reinforces what we're trying to accomplish there. And that's in addition to the training that our members do on a rapid deployment scenario as well. So yes, we definitely provide the feedback to try to improve those.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. To my colleagues, any questions? Councillor Sickley, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, Inspector. The camera program, someone was talking to me about that on the weekend. Is this the right place to ask how that's going? At least in the South District?
Well, that's probably in Lindsay's field, but essentially what they're asking, for those that aren't aware, is that a lot of our schools that do have cameras, our camera on program and registry It was just more legality checking to ensure that we could, if required, be aware of where the cameras exist within our schools, within the city, so that if there are offenses there, we can look at our registry. And we can access the footage through a lawful investigation of a criminal offense. So they are able to potentially in the future register their cameras with our camera registry so that we're aware of their presence should any offense happen on a school ground and stuff. So that is underway, and we're looking at working with both school boards to accomplish that.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. I found my other question in my scribbles. The PAC team. So just want to highlight, you'd mentioned 51 arrests diverted, 111 diverted from the ER. Those are great stats. So just maybe a comment on how, a lot of the, I guess, feedback that I hear is, if we can divert away from a police, traditional police response, just maybe the impact, obviously budget as well. When we're talking about the time and the effort spent, we hear about the cost of emergency rooms and that type of thing. Maybe if you just want to expand on the impact that's had.
Yeah, just reducing hopefully reducing the wait times, working with our health partners, which is something that the South District also does. And we've got a meeting upcoming with emergency departments, but specific to our PACT team to allow our patrol resources to go out there, to have a police officer with a clinician and understanding the approach it takes and knowing our clients, because a lot of them are frequent clients, to understand them personally. There's some that they can phone up and that will jump in the car and go get their injection. It just makes life a lot easier than just a patrol person that maybe doesn't have that relationship with them. So it's understanding their clientele, trying to work with them, understanding what their needs are, and tailoring some of those responses to get the appropriate response instead of bringing them into RPS detention, which is time consuming but also unnecessary and not the proper response to what those individuals need. So it's tailoring that response and connecting them with those community services that are available to ensure that there's a continued and ongoing support.
I really appreciate the people-centric approach. You had mentioned you would say that 4 teams would probably be ideal to do full coverage. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Well, we currently have 4 12-hour shifts rotating on patrol, and we currently have 3 PAC teams. So it's a matter of dedicating that 4th officer and having a 4th clinician from the SHA. It is a joint initiative, so both have to be on board to ensure that that moves forward, and we're hoping to achieve that in the future.
Fantastic.
Currently, we don't have 24/7 coverage with a PAC team.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. Well, we can work on that together. Any other questions from my colleagues? Robert, go ahead.
Couple for you here. The first one's maybe more general. How are the districts divided? Is it comparable by population essentially?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think we're doing a bit of a district review based on call load, so I'll let the chief maybe handle that one.
So those district boundaries have been in place for as long as I can remember, so 30-ish years for sure. But a couple years ago, actually, Inspector Gary Drew headed up a project to say, let's look at this. Are we deploying our members effectively based on population, growth of the city, all of that information? And so they took a deep dive into calls for service, investigative calls, response time in order to be able to meet our goals. And essentially what we came up with was we're still pretty good. So, it doesn't matter if you're south, central, or north, you're still going to have police officers who can respond to calls. Some districts might have more, for instance, 911 type of calls, but other districts might have more of those investigative calls that officers are assigned that when they're not responding to a 911 call, they have to investigate. They could be things that, are like a theft of auto or a mischief or a break and enter. And so there really is a really good balance in terms of that because we wanted to ensure that we were deploying our officers effectively. And the data really showed that we're essentially deployed as we should be. And it's something we will continue to monitor. As Inspector Jack, you mentioned, the South District has really grown in terms geographically, in terms of size. And so that's something we want to keep an eye on to ensure that we are able to respond to a 911 call wherever we are in the city and that we are resourced appropriately to be able to do that.
With that in mind, do the patrols typically stay within their districts or are they jumping around?
So in an ideal world, you are going to calls in your own district.
Sure.
Obviously, if you have, 9 911 calls happening at the same time in the city, we will pull from wherever the closest units that can go, we will go. In terms of investigation, so if you're assigned a file to work on outside of 911 response, those are only within your district. And in fact, we break them down smaller than the district side. So if you are in Southwest, then you're only getting files to investigate in the Southwest. So we really value that process because you get to know the people, the businesses, the community, what might be hot spots, offenders, and so that really that sense of geographic ownership is important. And so in an ideal world, you are staying within your district, but obviously in case of emergency, we will respond how we need to do. But certainly that is something we look at in terms of deployment. How often are we sending people to other zones or other districts? And we try to minimize that because obviously if you're traveling from the southeast to the northwest, that travel time isn't efficient. So we want to ensure that we're deployed in a way that reduces that.
Perfect. In terms of the school resource officers, I imagine we don't have enough to cover off all the schools. So are they rotating through the various schools? I assume there's some that are maybe more permanent in certain locations.
Well, each officer is assigned a high school as a primary high school, and then about 10 to 13 elementary schools through both school divisions, both public and Catholic. Obviously, geographically is easier than like the chief mentioned, driving all over the place and staying just within public or, A to Z or A to H type thing. So we try to keep them geographically close because those are typically the feeder schools for the high schools. So then they are connected and see the same school resource officer as they come up through the elementary and into the high schools. So
makes sense. Good. Do you know if we were able to handle all of the trip applications this year with our partners?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like we've got a fairly substantial wait list that is sitting there. So it does take a while to work through because of the ongoing support that each of those files incurs. It's difficult to actually close out a file because it does take some time to ensure the stability of it. So there is definitely a backlog or a wait list on our trip plan right now.
Perfect. And last question for you here relates to the evacuees. I imagine that was likely a newer instance this past summer, given the perplexity of the fires and what was going on up north. We're looking at about over 5,500 hours logged, which is quite a bit. Could you give us a bit of a sense of what kind of transpired there, the type of work, and whether that's something that's cost recoverable to the force?
Well, I believe it was cost recoverable through the province, but it initially started off as bringing the evacuees in. Quite often they're housed at the University of Regina. And then as more come into the city, the capacity for that is pushed to their limit. So then they started placing various evacuees from various areas in different hotels that were willing to adopt them or take them in. That brought with it some challenges to the security for the hotels. And some of the challenges that they faced within the organizing and keeping tabs on who's here and coming and goings. Some of the communication wasn't great. We're hoping that cleans up a little bit this year after some meetings with them, expecting it again to happen here in Regina. So there was some security challenges that we were facing at the hotel locations, which was responded to by our officers with some enhanced security at those locations, as well as some roving patrols.
A lot of it is proactive presence, so just being visible, but obviously, as you can see in the statistics, there were some calls for service, and so you can imagine, the trauma of transplanting an entire community to a city, and you might have people, for instance, who might have conditions not to be in contact with one another, and so those are the types of calls that we investigate. Obviously, some domestic type situations, again, that sort of trauma when you're, transplanted to another city, and so a lot of it is that just proactive presence that we're there, but there are some investigations that do take place as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thanks again for your presentation. I think we have one more left.
Okay, So the next will be our Central District report, and Inspector Brad Walter will present the final district report.
Last but not least,
That's right.
unless you ask Inspector Jackie.
Good morning, Mayor Bashinsky and the board. Thank you for this opportunity to present the Central District year-end report for 2025. I'm Inspector Brad Walter. I'm Inspector for the Central District. And I'm going to walk you through some statistics and some of the highlights for the year. So you can see up there a map of Central District. We are small, but we are mighty. We are the two blue sections, which represent the North Central and the South Central, and part of the South Central would be the downtown as well. It's incorporated into that. Oops. So the Central District is made up of the North Central community, the Heritage community, and the downtown core, or at the Regina Police Service, it's North Central, South Central, and downtown district, or zones. There's an inspector and a staff sergeant leading the Central District, along with a Central District patrol members. And as of 2025, we've added the downtown safety team, which consists of one operational sergeant, which has grown to 2 this year in 2026, one administrative or ARO sergeant. We have 8 beat officers. In 2025, we had 9 AROs, and that has grown to 13 in 2026. As all of the other districts, we have a tactical analysts who help us with the collecting data and reports on crime, and then we use that information to identify hotspots. And the Central District Staff Sergeant develops responses and directs police resources to areas that need attention. Some of the statistics that will cover the crimes against property. In 2025, the Central District represented 25.3% of the property crime in the city of Regina. Between the North Central and the South Central, the North Central was slightly higher at 55% of our district's crime report. And that is a consistent number over the past several years. The 3-year comparison. In 2025, all categories of property crime decreased in the Central District, an overall change of 27.5% decrease. There has been a decrease in each of the last 3 years in crimes against property, and we've seen a 40% reduction over the last 3 years. Crimes against the person. 36.9% of all crimes against the person in Regina occurred in the Central District. North Central has made up 61% of the crime against person in our district. Again, we've seen a decrease. All categories of crimes against person decreased by a total of 19%. And over the past 3 years, there has been a 20% total decrease. Occurrences, all districts. The Central District had a 2.4% increase in the number of occurrences that we've seen in the city. Occurrences in the Central District increased by 0.001 over the past year. It's consistent with the trends over the past 3 years. As mentioned earlier, one of the teams that we've added to the Central District is the Downtown Safety Team. It started out initially as an ARO program, and then we've redeployed some resources and formed the Downtown Safety Team. So we took the 8 beat officers, regular police officers that were assigned to the shifts that worked in the downtown, and we added in an operational sergeant and merged it all together with the alternative response program of our special constables and created the Downtown Safety Team. In 2025, the team worked a 10-hour shift rotation, working coverage from 6:30 in the morning to 2200 hours, which is 10 p.m. and that was 7 days a week. And they were dedicated primarily, dedicated to the downtown area. That just gives you an idea of when we say downtown, what we're talking about. We're talking about from Victoria Avenue north to Saskatchewan Drive, and then from east to west, we go from Broad Street to Albert Street. Another important thing for the downtown safety team that was implemented last year was the new, sorry, I jumped a slide here. We work with many downtown businesses, including the RD BID, or Regina Downtown Business Improvement District, Cornwall Center, the library, transit, City of Regina, the Regina Street team, and those are just to name a few of our partners. We have enhanced communication, our responsiveness has improved, and certainly we've seen an increase in police presence. We did establish, in the picture you can see up there, we did establish a police workspace. It's not a police station per se, but it's a drop-in spot for the police. When they're downtown, they can go in and do reports, they can take a break, have lunch, do those kinds of things. And it keeps them from having to come back over to the police station. We're not far away, but we found that it's more efficient to have a presence in the downtown, and the Cornwall was gracious enough to offer up a space and partner with us, and it's been a good addition to our efficiency and our presence. The downtown safety team will provide and has provided foot and bike patrols. They've attended many events. They've engaged businesses and addressed concerns brought up by those businesses. They've been very proactive in their work, assisting agencies in dealing with houselessness, mental health, and addictions. They've been done collaborative work with the shelters to address long-term concerns. And we've also put a fair amount of time in meeting with transit to provide police presence to address issues around disruptive riders. A lot of that work is done down at the transit hub there by the library, which is now at the library. It was over by the Cornwall Center previously. And it involves our officers going and checking in with bus drivers, doing periodic walkthroughs on buses to try to calm some of the fears around disruptive ridership. Historically, the downtown stats were collected as part of the South Central Zone, so it was a little bit challenging for us to draw that data out. But since we created the downtown safety team, we now generate statistics directly related to the downtown. So we've got some tables here that'll show you some of the stats from 23 through 2025. We've selected certain key things that we think highlight the insight and impact of the work that the downtown safety team has done. And a large number of calls for service are generated now by officers who proactively address issues prior to public even becoming aware of them. Whereas historically, in the past, a lot of those calls were generated by people who were downtown, and the crime would occur, the incident would occur before we got a call. So some of the statistics we pulled out: crimes against the person. It decreased by 9.7% in 2025 over the previous year. We feel our increased presence has likely provided deterrence to violent crime. We have seen an increase in weapons offense. We broke that down a little bit. Some of those are actual weapons-related calls where weapons are being utilized. But at least 50% of the calls that we've seen an increase of we have officers now that are interacting with people proactively, or they have a presence there where they can respond. And we're finding, when we search, we're finding weapons on people, doing more seizures, those kinds of things. So we're addressing things that we wouldn't have been aware of if we didn't have those police officers present in the downtown. Similar with property crime statistics have decreased by 37.3% last year. Again, we go back to those increased number of interactions and the presence by the police officers. And we feel reduced opportunities for break-and-enters and mischiefs, and the offenders who consistently commit crime are often either being transported to shelters or being arrested and housed in our detention area, and we're decreasing the number of opportunities people have to commit those crimes. The one thing we've seen where we have seen a significant increase is social disorder calls, and I don't think that's surprising to anybody, knowing some of the trends that we've been seeing overall the last few years particularly. So we saw an increase of 30.3% in social disorder calls. Again, we go back to that increased officer presence is related to increased interactions with individuals who are living with mental health, addictions, and homelessness. And it contributed to the increased number of calls related to social disorder. Calls can be initiated by third-party reporting to the RPS or self-generated calls through the proactive work of our members and the fact that they are present. So because of that presence, we've seen more timely responses to social disorder calls, things like unwanted guests, intoxicated persons, and suspicious persons. Historically, when we only had 2 beat officers assigned to the downtown, prior to the downtown safety team being developed, we'd often have officers have to be dispatched from outside of the area. And by the time they could get to that call, typically, a lot of them would have gone on arrival. The person was long gone. With the increased presence, we're able to address those issues. Because of those increased interactions, we've seen a significant number of referrals to shelters and also to the complex need facilities. For those of you that aren't aware, the complex needs facility is in the over by the exhibition grounds in that area. And it's a place that only police officers can take people struggling with addictions. So if we find somebody historically intoxicated or high on drugs or alcohol, we would arrest them. We'd take them to our detention area. They'd be there for 6-7 hours till they sobered up, and then they'd be released back out into the community, and the cycle would just continue. The complex needs facility has services, nurses, health, counseling, all of those kinds of support services that people can utilize if they choose to. They're held there for up to 24 hours. And it's been a huge benefit to us. In 2025, our downtown safety team alone transported 585 individuals and did a referral to the complex needs facility. So that's 585 people that didn't come down to detention, did go to a place where there's potential for help and supports. And they also did 912 referrals to local shelters. So I think it's a big change and a big improvement on how we're helping vulnerable people in the downtown, and we hope that the capacity of the complex needs facility grows as needed. We had a conversation this morning, Sergeant Kauk and I, in regards to housing of people, but we could, on some days, we could quite easily fill that facility up immediately. So we're trying to find a balance in taking those that need to go there and also finding other ways to deal with people that maybe are not necessarily needed to go there at the time. And then we had some other notable statistics. Interactions with the community. Homeless individuals. We had 13,182 interactions with homeless individuals last year. And when I first saw that number, I thought that can't be right. I mean, that's huge. And Sergeant Kauk and I talked that through. That's 4 contacts a day by each officer. So when you break it down, it's not, it adds up really fast. And I asked him about what does that interaction look like? Are we walking by and it's a hello and now we've got an interaction? He said, no, those are actual conversations because they keep track of their statistics. And in order to log the statistic, they have to inquire into how they're doing that day, what issues they have, is there anything we can do for them, those kinds of things. So I can promise you that we had nowhere near 13,182 interactions in a year with individuals who are struggling prior to the implementation of the downtown safety team. And then, addictions related, we get almost 3,600 intoxicating individuals, unwanted guests, 3,000 interactions. Some of those overlap, some of those, persons homeless and, and addictions as well, but a great number of contacts and interactions that we're seeing by the downtown safety team. The goals of the downtown safety team related to businesses are meaningful contacts. We want to build relationships with the owners and the employees downtown. During the cooler and colder months, our focus shifts to the warmer spaces. That's where people go. That's where they migrate. So the Cornwall Center gets a bulk of attention, in the colder months. But all areas of the downtown business community receive focus from our downtown safety team. And it is an expectation for our members to go and talk to even some of the small storefront businesses, do stop-ins, periodic check-ins, and get to know what issues they're facing, and that way we can develop plans to assist them. Again, some more statistics there that I've listed. Cornwall Center, we had 1,722 business contacts. The library is another significant place that we go, 533. Transit, as I mentioned, we're working with Transit to resolve some of their issues around disruptive ridership. So a significant number of business contacts. So we continue to work on building sound and healthy relationships in all areas of the Central District. It's critical to us maintaining community safety and well-being. We will continue to evolve in 2026 as we already have. There's some implementations that we've made in shifting and resourcing to continue to address the current needs and the needs that we anticipated that are coming. So I don't have any other formal comments. If there's any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer.
Great, and thank you for the presentation, Inspector. Just a couple from me to start off. When we refer someone to a shelter or the complex needs facility, are we able to ever get data to see if that person starts to move further along kind of the housing continuum, that we don't see them on the street? Let's say if it's a homeless or houseless individual.
Yeah, I don't think we ever get like a case by case, individual by individual. We are, the one thing I'll comment on, the one thing is I've noticed, I've been in this district since 2022. And the one thing that's really improved is the communication between all agencies. The City of Regina, they run a committee now. They've actually taken on the load that we used to carry. It used to be police first response and the partners would support. Now it's become we support the other agencies, which is exactly the way it should be. So the city runs an encampment strategy, or I can't remember the exact name of the committee. We meet every Tuesday and we talk about encampments and issues and challenges. And you've got everybody at the table. You've got fire, you've got social services, the police are there, the city runs the meeting, and all those kinds of things. So through some of those conversations, we may get some feedback and some general knowledge. I would say at the front line level, which I don't get as much access to, obviously I'm not out there, the front line level, they're going to get some feedback as to what's going on, because they may see somebody 5, 6, 8 times before they even take help, right? So they're going to know and have a feel for what's going on, and they'll have conversations when they see that person again. But I don't get like a report saying we took X number of people, and these are the ones that have been successful. It's more just experiential what we see when we're out there.
Okay, yeah, something maybe we, through those tables, maybe we can talk about in the future.
Yeah.
Because you hit it on the head when you said some folks may need 6, 7, 8 times before, they're at the point where they'll take the next step of help or whatever that
Right.
looks like. So
Some of that is a challenge for us to know about too, because there's confidentiality around the medical treatment.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
it is challenging, but I agree.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. And then I just want to highlight, because you had mentioned, I think something really important that you said was the types of questions that we're asking when we have those interactions. And I think people would maybe be surprised to hear that when our officers, especially our AROs and our beat team, is stopping and asking people a question, it's how are you doing? Do you need help today? Like those are the types of questions. So yeah, I don't know if you want to expand on that at all.
Yeah, just a general comment. I'll comment on our AROs. We've got a very diverse, youthful, highly energetic group of people. Like, we're very happy. It's very hard to find people in the hiring process nowadays, and we've got a really, really good crew. And I would be remiss if I didn't comment as well as our leadership, our supervisors. I got Sergeant Kauk, Sergeant Reimer, Sergeant Laloche. Jesse Singh is going to be our new staff. So we have a highly engaged group of people that are continually trying to find ways to solve problems and help vulnerable people. And the police, certainly in the last 3 or 4 years around homelessness, when we sit at the table, we're probably one of the most supportive groups for the vulnerable people. The days of arresting people and just lodging them in cells they're not here anymore. They're done. We'll do that when we have to, but it's about trying to resolve problems for people and put them in a better place. And because of that communication with the street teams, another one I haven't mentioned, because of that coordinated work, I mean, things can always get stronger, but we're seeing more of that approach of trying to resolve problems and help people rather than just put Band-Aids on it. So we're headed in a good direction. We've got a long way to go, but we're headed in a good direction.
I really appreciate that. And the last one for me before I let my colleagues jump in. You mentioned the complex needs facility has been a good asset for us. How much more capacity do you think would be needed to meet the mark in what you guys are seeing?
Right. Well, Ross and I talked, Sergeant Coke and I talked this morning, and I think it's 15 beds. Am I correct on that, Ross? Yeah, 15 beds. And on any given day, some days are different, but like even this morning we talked, we could fill it up. We could fill it up in the first couple of hours. But then what do we do later in the day, right? So we have to be strategic about who needs it most, and can we resolve problems without filling it up immediately? But over the last 2 years, we've seen culturally, I think culture is probably the right word within the organization. We're starting to see people recognize the value of that facility, and we've seen a significant increase in the number of transports the entire department is doing. Sergeant Fenwick was one of the leaders on that, or Inspector Fenwick, sorry, was one of the leaders on that when it first came in, and he really pushed the message and sold the message, and I think we finally are really seeing the value in it, and hopefully we can see some good results.
Fantastic.
I will just add to that. I was going to highlight it in the next report, but our admissions for March were 213, which is the highest number of admissions we've had since the complex needs facility opened. And Brad hit the nail on the head. It was a little bit of a culture change for our members to, understand the results and the importance of transporting folks there as opposed to taking them to detention or to the emergency room. But I think we've got to that point. Saskatoon has historically had a lot more uptake for whatever reason. And actually in March, we surpassed Saskatoon in the number of transports to complex needs. So, it is a very valuable resource for our community and for our officers. And certainly that'll be conversations we have with the ministries moving forward in terms of capacity, and especially as they move into compassionate intervention. So we'll have to have more conversation around that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues? Robert, go ahead.
We obviously still have some work to do around social disorder, given how high that number is and continues to increase. Understanding that's a relatively complex matter to even try to ascertain. All to say, it is extremely encouraging to see the downward trend, especially on the property crime front downtown. I know that's something that the Business Association has been discussing for very many years. To see that that steady and strong decline of about a third is great, and similar for crimes against the person. And I think if anything, the message there should be that folks should be encouraged to come downtown, and if they've had fears around that in the past, that those should be slowly going away. I know you mentioned the number around 13,000 or so unhoused. Do we have a sense of unique interactions that would maybe give us an idea of how many folks in general find themselves unhoused in the downtown core?
I'm going to phone a friend on this one. I'm going to
Sounds
ask her.
good.
Ross, do you have any comment on that? Yeah, if you want to come up, sure.
Right.
Sergeant Coke is one of our, as I mentioned him a few times today, one of our downtown safety team frontline supervisors.
Sure.
Two of them. Sergeant Reimer is the other one. So he's got day-to-day experience. In fact, when I came to work this morning, he was over at the Friendship Center helping some people out. So he's significantly knowledgeable about this.
So in my experience downtown, we have roughly 850 homeless people in the city of Regina that we're dealing with on a regular basis. So when we're dealing with those people, we're dealing with a lot of them every day. So the 13,000 interactions that we have, a lot of them are repeat interactions throughout the course of the day, throughout the course of the week, and we're trying to find out where they stayed last night, where they're staying tomorrow, and how we can help them get permanent housing.
Right. Still a relatively large number. I mean, even if we look at some of the encampments, there's a few tents sprawled here and there, but definitely not to the amount of 850 or so. You mentioned the police check-ins into the complex needs shelter. Are those voluntary for the participants?
So in order to get into the complex needs facility, they have to be arrested under the Summary Offense Procedures
Okay.
Act. So they have to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. When we first started the program, we found people were very resistant to that process of being arrested and taken to a shelter. Once we got those people to the shelter and they found that there was a clean bed, there was a laundry service, there was a nurse to look after them, there was food, there was addictions counseling, there were homeless workers, we were able to get way more people involved in that process of going to the complex needs facility. So we have no resistance now when we pick them up. There are people who have been struggling, who may not have had a warm place to stay or something to eat for days, and they jump in the car.
No, that's perfect to see that trend, both kind of that shift both on the policing front, but also on the front of the public as well. All to say, there is no voluntary kind of self-check-in option. It's just through a member of the police.
We do have people who will approach us from time to time who have been to the facility, and they will say, you know, I've utilized fentanyl today, or I've utilized meth today. I don't feel that I'm safe on the street. Can you please take me to the shelter? So at that point, it is a request for them to go, but we still do have to make the arrest, and then we do take them there.
Understood. Maybe that's something to explore in the future, to see if there's capacity in those cases to maybe, I don't know, not effect an arrest, but still give folks the capacity to check in if there is space to do so and accommodate those needs. But you know, all to say, I mean, it's a hard kind of correlation to directly make, but I would imagine that between the complex needs shelter and the AROs, that is in large part the downward trend that we are seeing in crime in the downtown core there. Just as a last question, could you tell us what our kind of ARO complement is as of today?
Yeah, we're at 13 currently, and we'd like to expand to 16 by year end. But there's challenges in hiring, trying to find people. 16 gives us a balance of 4 shifts, so 4 per shift.
Right.
So we'd like to, and it helps us with relief on holidays and training, so we don't, you know, if you're at minimum capacity, and then people go away on holidays and training, all of a sudden you're dipping down below and you don't have a presence any longer. So we'd like to increase it up to 16, but it's going to depend on recruiting and those kinds of things.
And are we currently at a 24/7 rotation?
Yeah,
or
we
am I-
switched this year. I know this is a 2025 report, that's
Right.
a 10-hour shift, but that's one of the changes we made for this year is we flipped to a 12-hour shift for the members, and so we run 6:30 in the morning till midnight now. So it gives us, and 7 days a week. So before we were heavy on Wednesday, Thursdays, and light on the weekends and that, and we've had, you know, requests around Globe Theater and different things like that. So by having the 12-hour shift, 7-day coverage, it allows us to cover more things off and be more balanced in our resourcing.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Michelle, go ahead.
Okay, I think this is a quick one. I guess I want to say I really love hearing all the stuff that we're doing with alternatives to just taking people to the emergency room or putting them in our detention centers. Lots of really great work being done there. My question is on the property crimes, 40% decrease in property crimes. Is there, and there's so many tables on here, maybe we've already gone through it, but is there a distinction between North Central and South Central for that 40% decrease in property crimes?
That would be an overall district decrease.
Okay. Is there,
Yeah, it's in there. I don't know, I could look, we can talk after if you
well, I
want.
guess the reason I'm asking that is, are there reasons other than downtown? We've heard some great stuff that we're doing with RPS down there, but in North Central, are those property crimes decreasing, and what would be the reasons for
Yes,
that?
they are decreasing, and, you know, we talk a lot about what's happening in the downtown because there's a team, it's new, it's all of that. There's a lot of great work happening in the central, in the North Central as well. One of the ways that we address issues and hotspots in the downtown is we do the proactive initiative of the week. So each week, the staff sergeant will look at where are we seeing, challenges and issues. Property crimes would be one component to that. And then we'll come up with an initiative, and we assign our patrol members that initiative for the week, and they're expected to, in their downtime, unfortunately, it's not always available, but in their downtime, they're expected to put in time on that initiative, a presence, investigate those kinds of things, and then report that back to us for the week. So every week, there's an initiative, and we usually balance it, certainly something in the North Central, sometimes in the South Central, where we will focus on problem issues in that area as well.
Okay. I don't know if can you share any initiatives that you've done for, just for North Central specifically?
Yeah, we did, there's been so many things. We did some work around All Nations Hope. The staff sergeant's not here, so I don't have a lot of detailed stuff on that, but I can certainly get some information for you on that.
Yeah, I'd love to have a few more
sure.
examples. Thank you
Yeah,
so
for
much.
sure.
Any other questions? Manmeet, go ahead.
So one of the things that the chief already mentioned, that the legislation change that's come in with regards to how government is deciding to intervene to help with addiction. This facility with 15 beds definitely would need to expand to accommodate some of that if that falls onto you guys. In addition, I've heard about the peace officers on the transit. I believe I heard the number to be 8 or something. Do you think that'll help with increase in the sense of safety on the transit and take some load off you guys?
So the transit management and myself, we meet, I don't know, quarterly. I think we have a meeting tomorrow. And we discuss issues around what's happening on the buses, et cetera. They have hired 8 supervisors. They have not hired like special constables or AOs. They've hired supervisors. So we had talked initially with them about what an ARO extension would look like. The budget is pretty significant. So we gave them all the information and what would be required, and they went the path of supervisors. So I don't know what I can't speak for transit, what their plans are, but it is supervisors that will respond. I think it's going to depend on the circumstances of what they're dealing with and of course, their skill set. They may be able to diffuse some things and calm some things down, but if it's anything significant, we're still going to be attending.
Okay, thank
just
you.
for their safety.
Okay, any other questions? Doug, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, mine's more of a comment, I think, to the board and to the chief is, a lot of my career has been downtown, looking at safety, looking at, the challenges that we run into. I just want to highlight the amount of resources and what we're putting into the downtown is truly appreciated. I think it's a focus that we've needed for years, and so I just want to share that with everyone.
I just want to make one quick comment around that because it's something that happened last week. Myself, Sergeant Laloche, and Staff Sergeant Singh attended the RDBID Safety Task Force meeting. And the feedback we got is very consistent along that they're seeing improvement. And this is not my stat. I can't verify this stat. This came from the general manager of the Cornwall Center. And since over the last 2 years or so, she's reported a 65% decrease in significant incidents. So that's positive because when I first started in this district, we had a lot of problems related to that at that time. And so the hard work of these guys is having some impact. So
Fantastic. Any final remarks? Okay. Well, thank you again for presenting. Really appreciate that and appreciate the work that you guys are doing. With that, can I have a motion to receive and file the report? Councillor Sicklys. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. Okay, we'll go to PO 26-15, Regina Police Service Monthly Crime Overview, March 2026. Chief Davies, over to you.
Thank you very much. I will keep it brief. We've already heard a lot about crime statistics this morning, but this is obviously the extract for the month of March. So overall, our crimes were down 3.6% for March. Crimes against the person were down slightly at 0.3%, and property crimes declined by 4.9%. In March, we continued to focus on retail crime and repeat offenders. Targeted enforcement led to multiple arrests and charges, including individuals linked to a series of theft incidents. Investigators also advanced some longer-term investigations, including solving 2 armed robberies from 2022. And I think it just shows our commitment to address these thefts and robberies that are taking place at local businesses. I would also highlight in relation to arsons, we made some significant arrests in relation to some investigations. So 2 vehicle fires relating to the time frame of March 23rd, and they also linked that to an arson that occurred back in 2024. So again, those files are never closed. We're always looking to dig up information to be able to hold offenders accountable. I already spoke to the admissions to the complex needs facility. I would just highlight we do continue to see some pressures in relation to level 1 assaults. So those are the most minor of assaults. We think a lot of that is related to warmer weather, more people out and about, potentially can lead to more conflict. We have noted that there has been an increase in relation to assaults against police officers, so we are keeping an eye on that and determining if we need to take more measures in order to prevent or hold people accountable. And then attempt theft from motor vehicles has been something that's declined over the last number of years, but in March we did see an increase. Obviously, we're looking at smaller amounts of numbers there, but we do think it was a small group of offenders who were targeting ignition damage, and so we're keeping an eye on that as well. In relation to overdoses, not specific to March, but you would have seen Saskatchewan Health Authority has issued a couple of notices about drugs in our community over this current time frame over the last number of weeks. Unfortunately, has resulted in a large number of overdose calls. Just for the Regina Police Service, from January to April in 2025, we send out a BOLO whenever there's an overdose so that if officers are close, they can go by with Narcan. In 2025, we had 379 from January to April. This year, we've had 947. So you can see that number has increased. What is interesting, however, is that the fatalities over that same time period were 23 in 2025 and 20 in 2026. Which means we are getting there in a timely manner, being able to intervene, and that is certainly a good statistic to highlight. So continues to be a pressure point, and those drug alerts, we work closely with our partners at SHA and with the fire department to ensure that people in the community are made aware when there are drugs that are dangerous, and typically that means that they're not responding to Narcan or naloxone in a manner where we're able to assist people to bring them back. So certainly something that's continuing to be an issue. I think those were all the things that I would highlight, but certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have about the March crime statistics.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Any questions from members? Go ahead, Robert.
I'll just highlight, I think we had a good arrest around an attempted vehicle theft around some 7 odd vehicles. So hopefully that helps reduce some of those thefts around there. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions. Okay, with that, can I have a motion to receive and file the report? Councillor Raddens, I'll call the question. Any opposed? That is carried. Can I have a resolution for private session, please? Councillor Siklees. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. We will recess for 20 minutes. Thank you, everybody.